Hello, welcome back to Little Z Farm. I was thinking for today, I wanted to do something a little bit more lighthearted. And I'm feeling better after recovering from the weekend. And I realized that we have not shared the names of our goats yet. And so we're gonna do that today. And, we've spent some time thinking about what we want to name these funny creatures that now live here at Little Z Farm. And when we got them, their names were Granger and Weasley, which, if you are Harry Potter fans, you will recognize those names. We are not Harry Potter fans here at Little Z Farm. Don't come at me. So we knew that since they weren't particularly attached to their names, we wanted to change them. The names we picked kind of based on their personalities and also just on one of my favorite TV shows that brings me absolute joy in dark times. But before I share those names, I thought I'd share with you the top 10 goat names that we loved but didn't use. Number 1, goat name that we loved but didn't use, Michelangelo. We considered that name for a while because Eric's mom said that our boy goat looked like a painting, and we thought that was very sweet. And I started thinking of famous artist names, and Michelangelo stuck for a minute. But when it came down to it, I just didn't feel like it fit him. Name number 2, Helicopter. So my cousin Lacey told me that when we were younger, they had pet goats, and that they let me name one of them. And at the ripe age of 3 years old, the name that I selected for the goat was Helicopter. I really love that story, and there's a part of me that still kind of wants to name our boy goat Helicopter, but based on the other name that we selected for the girl, I just felt like it wouldn't fit. So Helicopter is still on the list though for future goats. The third name that we loved for our goat is Bella. I have to say that our doe is a very beautiful goat. And she's kind of stoic and just distinguished looking, and I just thought Bella was a really good fit for her. But again, couldn't really make Bella fit with the other names that we have, so it got cut. The fourth name that we loved but didn't use, Goaty McGoatface. So trendy. Okay, so Goaty McGoatface was pretty high on the list for me. Doesn't really roll off the tongue though, and I don't think that he would have learned to come to that. So he could have just shortened it from Goaty McGoatface to just Goat. But then at that point, is it really even a name? Says the person that has a cat named Puppy Cat. The fifth name that we loved but didn't choose, Stan. Does anyone have a name that they just automatically give to pets before they've named them, or to inanimate objects in their house? No? Well, I have a tendency to call animals that show up here Stan, if they're a boy or if I think they're a boy. And I just do that before I know their names. But I did make a consideration briefly on naming this boy goat Stan, so that Stan could have a permanent fixture here on the farm. But as I thought about it, what name am I going to use then? It just rolls out for any animal that I don't know, so I can't assign Stan to anyone. So Stan was not going to work. Okay, and then the sixth name that we loved and didn't choose, Billy. I think that's a pretty common name for a goat. Male goats are called billy goats, and so Billy would seem like an appropriate name for our goat, only my father-in-law's name is Billy, and I didn't think he'd appreciate us naming the goat after him. Also, I know like 10 other Bills in my life, and it just wouldn't feel right calling the goat Billy. The seventh name that we loved but didn't choose, Daisy. Ugh, and isn't this doe just like a beautiful little flower? She's so sweet and dainty looking. Poor goat. And I threw around several flower names, and Daisy was the top of the list for the flower names. When it came down to it, I just didn't feel like Daisy matched her personality. She's a little bit too prissy for Daisy, so Daisy got the axe. Not the goat, the name. The eighth name that we loved but didn't go with, Bubba. Okay, our boy goat just has this kind of funny little face. And when you look at him, you just kind of want to call him Bubs. Like, he's just kind of funny looking from his horns, which I think I mentioned before that the boy was pulled, or his horns were removed when he was little. They didn't do it properly, and so unfortunately they grew back. So he has these funny looking horns that grow back in kind of a unique manner. And when you look at him, I thought Bubba kind of fit, but he didn't seem to like Bubba, and I can't blame him. So we decided not to stick with it. The 9th name that I loved but didn't choose, Karen. Karen seemed like a kind of timely name, but also maybe offensive, so we didn't go with Karen. Karen. Ooh, I don't know, maybe she likes it. The final name that we loved but didn't choose was another boy name, Clyde. I actually love the name Clyde. And I know it's old school and it's not everyone's favorite, but I thought Clyde would be a great goat name. And honestly, we're probably gonna have a goat named Clyde at some point. But I couldn't get Clyde to fit with the girl name that I ultimately selected, and I decided that I really wanted names that matched and that would actually bring me joy every time I mentioned them. And so the names that we selected, they really go together like a pair, and they really fit their personalities. Our girl goat, she's a little bit sassy. She's sweet for the most part. She's a little bit hard on our boy goat, but for the most part, she's a nice girl. She's a little bit prissy. She likes things a specific way. She's very picky about food. And so that got me thinking, who's picky about food? Our boy goat, he's also picky about food. And maybe that's a goat thing and I just didn't know it. He's a little bit more standoffish than our girl goat. So when he does give you attention, you really savor it. Just soak it in. So as I was considering famous pairs that I know, pairs that are picky about their food, sweet for the most part, but a little bit prissy, I came up with the perfect names. It's names that I originally thought of and then circled back to after much consideration. I'd like to introduce you to Mary Berry and Paul Hollywood. If you don't watch Great British Baking Show, these names are not going to mean anything to you. But if you are an Uber fan like I am, then you should be excited that I now have goats on my property named Mary Berry and Paul Hollywood. They seem to like them okay. Well, that was rude. Paul, come here. Paul. Come on. Come here, Paul. Mary Berry. Come on. Okay, well, we're still learning our names. Anyway, I realized I hadn't shared these names. It became this like long drawn out process of us trying to ultimately decide and get Eric's approval on these names, and so we just hadn't shared it yet. So those are the names. They're final. They're locked in. We won't be changing them. But the next animal that we get on the farm, I hope it doesn't take us over a month to name them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.